On Sunday morning, deputies received a call at about 05:30 in the morning regarding a missing 11-year-old, which is not uncommon for us to respond to. Deputies responded, searched the neighborhood, looked for friends that she might have gone to, and at 9:30 they had not located her, so they called out detectives, and they called out search and rescue, and they then did neighborhood search, door-to-door search, all the things that we do trying to find a missing child. We were unable to locate her. Detectives then went into the residence and did some data search on the computer and discovered that she had some type of relationship with a 30-year-old male out of Colorado. Deputies did surveillance on cell phone numbers, on license plates, on all the information that we had available to us, and discovered that the 30-year-old had traveled from Colorado to Bakersfield. And in the same day, they discovered that he left the trailer park where the 11-year-old lived at about 3:30 in the morning. Deputies then did more surveillance with using the technology that's available to us, and discovered that he had left California, was in Utah, contacted authorities in Salina, Utah, and within 30 minutes they had the vehicle stopped, they had the suspect in custody, and they had the 11-year-old girl secure. Yesterday, deputies flew to Utah, where they conducted interviews and brought the 11-year-old home, and the 30-year-old, who is identified as Joshua Michael Stahey, 30 years old. He was booked into the Sevier County Jail in Utah for 207A, kidnapping, PC 278.5A, child abduction, PC 236, false imprisonment, PC 288A, child molestation, PC 288.3A, contacting a child with intent to commit sexual acts, PC 288.4A1, arranging to meet a child for sexual acts, and PC 288.4B, a meeting with the child for sexual acts. In conversation with the district attorney, Cynthia Zimmer, today, we've talked about extradition, and she's assured me that she will work on extraditing the suspect back to Kern County to where he can face those charges. I would add that this is exactly what we talk about with the media and with parents, about knowing what your child is doing, knowing that when they're online, the places they go to, I think you can get the picture of what transpired in this particular case. The city had one not too long ago that ended with the child being killed, if you all recall. So we feel very fortunate that we were able to secure the safety of this 11-year-old and get her back home. And with that, I would answer any questions that you might have.
Do you know if the suspect had any previous
Not-
rise of the law in this way?
Not to my knowledge,
This is the first time he was ever
as
caught.
far as I know.
Do you recall what platform that was used?
I do not know what, there's probably several platforms, but I do not know.
The press release says agency in Utah. Do we know exactly what agency?
There was, what was the police department, Merle, do you know?
Salina Police Department.
Salina.
Can you elaborate?
That's Commander Murillo. He'll answer any of your questions that I failed to answer.
Thank you. Sheriff, can you elaborate on the relationship that you mentioned?
I'm not going to go into detail on what we believe occurred. We're not going to release her name again. She is an 11-year-old that has to live in the community and go back to school. And I think the charges speak for themselves.
Do you know how long they were in contact with each other?
We believe that from the time she was missing to the time we located her was less than 40 hours.
Could you clarify her age? The warrant we were able to obtain says she was 10 years old.
Yeah,
Your agency.
she was, as if it makes any difference, she was 11.
When you mentioned extradition, what's the timetable on potentially extraditing the suspect?
That's up to the courts and the DA and when they can get that done.
Could you also elaborate on the suspicious circumstances that she was missing under?
Well, at 2 o'clock in the morning, she was reported missing. or at 5:30 in the morning, she was reported missing. So she had been missing since 2 in the morning. So during that period of time, we don't know what transpired, or at least I don't know what transpired. But we do know that his vehicle left the location in Bakersfield at about 3:30 in the morning.
Can you describe the vehicle type?
I do not have the vehicle type.
I would like your message to local parents in Kern County. Upon hearing this headline, a lot of parents are frightened, as they should be, right? What would be your message to local parents in the area?
You know, there's several different platforms, as you brought up earlier, that these kids can go on. Without knowing the facts of this case, I'm absolutely convinced that an 11-year-old didn't seduce a 30-year-old online. We know from our experience that this is the exact opposite of that. An adult male grooms a child, says things that the 11-year-old may or may not want to hear, and for her to voluntarily go with him, in an 11-year-old's mind, probably believe there was a relationship.
Is this a trend that we've been seeing here in Kern County, or that your agency has been seeing?
Well, if you go back in our history, we, and the district attorney and the sheriff and the Bakersfield Police Department, we have stings that we do online. And without fail, we get people that come here from across the country thinking they're going to meet a juvenile for sex, when in fact they're meeting a police officer. We do it time after time, yet they still come. We know that they sometimes they believe they're going to get caught, but it's worth the risk to them. So this is a parental issue that I'm not blaming these parents, because it's hard to believe that this could happen to your child, but it can.
How hard would it have been to really bring the scout back, maybe
I'm not sure.
before the kind of technology that we have right now?
Well, and I didn't go into depth with the technology that we use because we don't want to put it out there, but there's a lot of things that are available. You all are technologically more depth of this than I am, but there's a lot of things you can use in law enforcement to find someone. And ironically, a lot of the technology that we use, activists are after. They don't want law enforcement to use. This is exactly why we need this technology and the ability to use it.
Those charges that you had stated previously, are those the same charges or similar charges that he'll be facing?
The charges I read is what he was arrested for. What he's charged with when the DA issues a complaint is entirely up to her.
How important was cross-state communication in this case? I know you mentioned that it was only about 30 minutes after that ATL went out that he was located.
Yeah, it's extremely important that you have those connections across the country. In this particular case, the detectives were in contact with the DA's office. They were working to notify another state agency that we have a general location of where the suspect is at. And, when there's an 11-year-old child involved, cops tend to really get on it and take it very seriously. And they did in this case. In a matter of 30 minutes, they had the car stopped and secured the young lady.
And how is the young lady doing now?
I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know how she is. She appears to be fine, but I don't know in depth, how she'll deal with this.
And is she back with her parents now and back with her family now?
Well, we'll say she's back in the jurisdiction.
You mentioned the stings that you guys had previously online. Does what happened, with this individual who had no criminal history before that, does something like this kind of vindicate or even validate the efforts that you guys are making online in those stings where people say, oh, maybe they're just being baited into these situations?
It certainly validates what we've been saying all along, that this happens, this occurs. The frightening thing about this particular case, like all the cases, had we not found her, we don't know what the end result would have been. Thank God.
Were there any weapons in his vehicle, or items like rope or duct tapes, items to subdue someone that were found?
He did have a gun.
Did you guys meet him at a hotel? I know that you guys said that you saw him and captured him in Utah, but there was these lewd acts that happened previously before his capture.
He was captured on a car stop on the freeway.
So is it assumed that they did perform these acts in the vehicle?
I'm not assuming anything. I won't speculate where or he was at because I don't know.
Do you have an exact location on the freeway or the closest?
I know the detectives flew into, I think, Richland, Utah yesterday, and Sevier County is not very big. but I don't have the exact location.
When you said that she was found unharmed, what do you mean, unharmed?
I think it speaks for itself. Unharmed means physically alive, not physically hurt, and able to get in an airplane with us and have our pilots fly her back.
If parents want any resources to educate themselves, to educate their children, where would they go? What would they do?
You know, the schools have a lot of information on this. If parents have questions, we will answer those questions. You've probably seen me quite frequently on the morning show with KGT talking to parents, telling the parents, find out what your child is doing. Because if you don't, I suspect they didn't have any idea that this was going on. I don't know that for a fact, but I suspect they would have taken action had they known.
In the earlier case you mentioned where the girl was killed, there were videos that she had sent, videos and images sent, and then he used the killer in that case used them to blackmail her. Was there anything sent in this case where he compelled her, saying, "I'll release these if you don't come with me"?
Not to my knowledge.
Were there any ulterior motives for the suspect to compel this 11-year-old girl to get in the vehicle with him and travel to Colorado?
Other than sex, I don't know of any other motive that he may have had.
Human trafficking is a title that's actually quick to be slapped onto just about anything these days. This is not what you're seeing in this case, is it?
We don't know the end result, how this would have ended. It could have ended with him trafficking her when he got home. It could have ended with her death. It could have ended with he believed that he's having a legitimate relationship. I don't know the answer to that, and I'm glad I don't know the answer.
Has he been interviewed yet, or has he agreed to an interview yet with either investigators in Utah or Kern County?
Yes.
Anything that you can reveal about what he said?
We don't reveal suspect statements from interviews, but he was interviewed.
Anyone else being looked at in this case?
Not to my knowledge. Not to my knowledge. If you think about the trip from Utah in one day, arriving in the middle of the night, getting an 11-year-old and turning around, heading back halfway across the country, any parent that has a 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old daughter or son ought to be terrified with that information.
Is it assumed that he was going back to Colorado and he was traveling through Utah?
We believe that he was headed back to Colorado where he lives.
And just to confirm, they'd only been in contact online for 40 hours before this incident?
No, I don't know how long they were in contact with each other.
Oh, okay.
From the time that she was reported missing to the time that she was recovered is about 40 hours.
Okay. But as far as the online, how long they knew each other online, that's not known yet at this point?
It may be known, but we're not releasing.
Okay.
You also mentioned she was in the jurisdiction, so she's not with her family?
I didn't mean to infer that she was not with her family, but I'm not going to tell the news media where she's at.
What are the next steps in the investigation or the process?
The next steps will be the extradition of the suspect to Kern County from the DA's office, and that takes some time. And I would refer to District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer for those answers. Anybody else? Thank you for coming.